Welcome to Cincinnati Soccer Talk, the podcast covering all things soccer in the Queen City. So get in touch, soccer fans. Email us at feedback@cincinnati-soccertalk.com. Now, here's your host, Nick Suberling.
Hey, what's happening, Cincinnati Soccer Talkers? Welcome to episode 137 of CST. Glad you're with us here on this fine Monday evening. Another weekend of FC Cincinnati soccer. Another draw. FC Cincinnati ends the year on two back-to-back draws. They tie with the Nashville SC down in Nashville 3-3 in what was a thrilling affair down in the Music City. We'll talk about that match as well as some other soccer news surrounding the state of Ohio. Hashtag Save the Crew. It has apparently happened. We're going to talk with SiriusXM FC's, the host of the United States of Soccer, Jason Davis, here in about 20 minutes to talk about not just Save the Crew, but FC Cincinnati's MLS, I guess we could say ongoings, as well as how the crew staying in Ohio affects FC Cincinnati. So looking forward to catching back up with Jason. It's been a while. And, of course, it's the playoffs. And with the way the results ended over the weekend, well, we get to do it one more time with Nashville SC here in 2018. So should be a fun one. We're reading your comments on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. If you want to get in touch with us, you can at Cincy Soccer Talk on Twitter. You can also email us at feedback@cincinnati-soccertalk.com. We don't have an episode captain this week, so if you want to wear the armband for an episode of Cincinnati Soccer Talk, you can log on to cincinnati-soccertalk.com/support to find out just how you can do that. All right, let's welcome in my cast of characters. I like to call them my cast of characters because each and every one of them is unique. I will start first and foremost with Trisha Hauser. Trisha, welcome back to CST. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing well. Did you enjoy the game over the weekend?
That's one word for it.
Okay. Trisha coming in on fire here.
I enjoyed that we didn't lose. There were parts that could have been a lot more enjoyable.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm looking forward to getting your thoughts on what went down in Nashville over the weekend. Let's also welcome in a Bradley Weigel back to the show. I think this is 3 in a row, Brad. We should get you like a shirt or something.
They got a plaque on the wall back here. I have to have some sort of decoration. But Subes, how excited are you to be coming down to Cincinnati this weekend, fella?
Oh, you have no idea. I'm jonesing for some Skyline. I'm jonesing for some Grippo's barbecue chips.
Yeah, buddy.
Playoffs, and look, it's going to be awesome. Playoff atmosphere. My first FC Cincinnati playoff game. This is only their second home playoff game ever. So yeah, I'm pumped, man.
So if I'm reading this correct, if you had one choice between La Rosa's or Skyline on your visit home, which would it be?
There's no doubt about it. It would 100% be Skyline Chili.
Okay.
It would be. And don't get me wrong. This is not a slouch on La Rosa's. I love me some La Rosa's, but I can get pizza up here. I can't get Cincinnati chili up here.
I don't know if we've ever really discussed this. What's your Skyline order?
My Skyline order is a 4-way onion with 2 cheese conies with everything.
Oh, low cal, cutting out those carbs.
Low cal. That's funny. Well, I'm glad to have you back on the show, Brad. I know you're excited as well to chat with Jason Davis of, as you called him before the show, the soccer godfather of American podcasting.
My hero, dude. It's why we got into this. His example.
Oh, Mom's already chiming in on Facebook, and to see my parents. Yes. Last but not least, let's welcome back the Wolfman, Bill Wolf. Bill, how are you, buddy?
Doing good. I'm over on YouTube a little bit right now, having a good old chat with some guys over there right now. So they're already throwing their best and worst out there. So we see what everyone comes up with here on the team CST. But we're having a good time on YouTube.
Well, that's good. That's what you call a segue in the business, folks. So lead us off, Bill. Your best and worst from Saturday.
All right. Well, for me, it's just all about the game. You know, I went down to Nashville, had a great time down there. So for me, the best was just we had a great group of fans down in Nashville. It was a lot of fun spending time with them. We went down to I think it was Jack Brown's burgers and beer joint or something like that. I don't know. It was, an outdoor picnic thing with, kicking a soccer ball, throwing cornhole, and, just hanging out and drinking beer and eating food and whatever. It was a good time. So it was a good group of guys. Enjoyed it. We were a little short on drums nights. Hint, hint, hint. But no, it was fine. We had a great time. We had some great capos. So we had a good time, and everybody was loud and proud. I went back and listened to the broadcast a little bit, and I could hear us. So excellent. Worst was Nashville's visitor section. Oh my gosh. I mean, it's a baseball diamond, right? So they got the outfield and they got the grass berm out there. I guess you want to do something with it, but to me, that's like, put some families out there for cheap and let them sit on blankets. For us, we wanted to stand, and you're basically standing on a hill for 90 minutes, and, try standing on a hill for 90 minutes. It's really hard on your legs. It's really odd with a drum. So yeah, I was not impressed with the grassy berm, as they call it, from Nashville.
All right. So Bill, not happy with how things went, or I guess as far as the seating goes, there in Nashville. How about your best and worst? I'll go with you, Trisha.
My best would have to be Ledesma getting the USL 2018 assist leader. I think Ledesma's pretty great. And then Newton got the Golden Glove, which is fantastic. I'm very proud of him. And my worst needs no explanation, Tucker Hume.
Because he's alive.
I don't know. I'm sure he's a good guy. He's clearly talented, but there is something about him that I do not like and can't get over.
Well, you are not alone.
How many months' rent or mortgage payments would you be willing to give up to see him do that slide where he ends up belly flopping onto the pitch we saw a couple weeks ago?
A lot.
In person.
I would pay for that. I would pay to see Patty Barrett just take him out, or Kenny Walker, or really anyone. I don't want him seriously hurt, because that's bad karma, and my karma's already pretty bad. But there's just something about him that I don't like him. I don't like him.
Yeah, you're not the only one who mentioned that. We got this on YouTube from Andy Maidlow. He says his worst was we make Big Bird look like a first-team USL player. That was disappointing 5 minutes in. He scored with 3 minutes left at Nippert a few weeks ago. Actually, a couple months ago, now that I think about it. It was early August. And then, within the first 5 minutes, you're thinking to yourself, what in the world?
I hate him. I'm sorry to his parents, but I don't like him.
All right. Well, we know how Trisha feels about Tucker Hume. Some more best and worst. We got this one's from Jesse Gill. Best was scoring 3, took Pickens out of the Golden Glove and gave it to Newton, which we got that news today that he is the Golden Glove award winner for the 2018 season. His worst is giving up the lead twice. So keep them coming. We want to hear your best and worst. Brad, how about you? Your best and worst?
Have to go with best. He's got to be setting the 23 match unbeaten record. That's a tough achievement to do. Not sure it's ever going to be beaten again. So congrats to Alan Koch and his crew. Worst has to be letting in another late goal to Nashville. As Trisha mentioned, our villain Tucker Hume, he did it up here in Cincinnati, and we gave up a late one to Bullock and Yode. We just got to tighten it up of late against these guys. I feel like, first of all, you look at our 3 matches. I throw away the first one at Nissan Stadium because that pitch was horrible. But I felt we were the better team up here, and I felt we were the way better team down there. But we got to tighten up at the end of the matches.
We've got some more best and worst coming in, so make sure you keep them coming. My best and worst. My best was, how about Richie Ryan getting back on the pitch for the first time since June? It had been so long since he had played for FC Cincinnati. He last played when I was in Disney World the last time he played for FC Cincinnati, all the way back in June. So it was good to see him back on the field. He had to have been feeling just absolutely grateful Saturday night to get that opportunity. And so good for him. Good on him for finally getting back out on the pitch and getting match fit and contributing there in the 23 match unbeaten streak. My worst is the fact that FC Cincinnati has to play Nashville again, or back-to-back weeks. That never seems to bode well, especially for professional teams in this city. We know a few years ago the Bengals ended the year with the Jets, had to play them in the first week of the playoffs. It was bad. So that's the only thing. I hate the fact that we've got to play Nashville back-to-back, especially with the way the match ended. Now they're going to feel confident that they could come up to Nipper and get a result.
Let's pump the brakes a little bit, Subes. I think we have a little bit different ambition between our club and the Reds and Bengals. But
100% agree.
I think we have the winner for the worst of the week on Facebook. Got to give a shout out to Tina Harris. Her worst of the week: Nashville's lying outrageously expensive Oktoberfest claiming the world's largest chicken dance. Ladies and gentlemen, we know the world's largest chicken dance, where it resides. We've had Mini-Me. We've had Weird Al Yankovic. We had FC Cincinnati a couple years ago. We know where that lies. Let's not lie, Nashville. Okay, we know you're trying, to catch up to us because we got into MLS before you, but let's calm down with the lies and the cheating and the stealing.
Yeah, I saw that on social over the weekend and thought, wait a minute, timeout. That is absolutely not true. But hey, hashtag fake news, right, Brad?
Huge news.
So those are some best and worst. Bill, are there any other good ones out there that are worth mentioning?
We got Danielle Kidwell was save the crew. So that's obviously some big news that hit, and worst was of course letting Nashville hang around. So I think they were pretty safe, but yeah, I mean maybe with Bethlehem and New York both winning, we would have beaten them. We might have knocked them out. So she might be right.
Well, no, because by the match we had already known that Nashville had clinched because of Ottawa's
you're right.
loss.
You're right.
But,
you're right.
But
it was Ottawa.
Right. So let's talk about the match a little bit, shall we? First 5 minutes, FC Cincinnati goes down. Tucker Hume with a great headed ball into the far post to make it 1-0 after I couldn't believe it was 5 minutes. And then they get to halftime, FC Cincinnati down 1-0, made some adjustments. Brad, you noticed this. Once they made the adjustment of bringing Ledesma more central and playing alongside Adi, things seemed to open up a little bit more.
Yeah. We started off the match 4-2-3-1 with Nas in the 10. And we just had nothing going on in the first 20 minutes. Nashville kind of had we were possessing the ball, but all we were doing was resorting to the long ball. But I'm encouraged for this weekend just because of the progression of our front four. After that first 20 minutes, we really started to have success getting into space behind their back line. I think a big key of that, especially after halftime, was freeing up Nas. We moved Al-Badawi out to the right side more, gave Manu the freedom. We moved Al-Badawi out right. We gave Manu the freedom and to move all over the front of the pitch. And you saw it, we were able to outshoot him 20-14. We had a lot of great goal scoring opportunities. I can't wait to see the XG spreadsheet from Ken. But I think it really shows how our front four, starting when we moved Ledesma a little more centrally towards Adi, how they were able to work with one another. You're able to see that chemistry, and you were able to see what FC Cincinnati is trying to do. So I'm really excited heading into this weekend.
You look at the match stats, and possession was a big number, especially at halftime. It was close to 70% in favor of FC Cincinnati, Bill, but the chances on goal weren't exactly there. And I felt like Adi was pretty much isolated up there. And granted, the service into him wasn't great. And there were a couple times we found him dropping all the way back to almost midfield to get a touch on the ball. All that possession didn't really amount to much. Was that more a combination of FC Cincinnati's formation and tactics or Nashville's setup?
I don't know. I mean, Nashville's known for being very, very strong defensively. So certainly we expect them to smother chances. But there were chances there. I mean, Adi didn't really produce a lot specifically himself, but We saw other opportunities and we saw some nice saves from Pickens. I think the first half in general, though, I mean, we didn't really look extremely dangerous. Even with the stats, we didn't really get many chances. There was some adjustments in the second half, like Brad said, that really opened things up, I think, and created, in my mind, what looked like more real chances for us. But yeah, from an Audi standpoint, I think a lot of people felt a little disappointed with that. He seemed to be struggling with just being physically pushed around and expecting the refs to call more fouls or something. At some point he just had to, I think, accept that and just deal with it, which he kind of did a little bit more at one point when he was dragging one guy hanging on his shoulders halfway across the field. But
yeah, I'm sorry to butt in here, Subs, but about that Audi situation real quick, because I'm seeing a lot on social media and a lot of other coverage was kind of hitting on Audi. And first of all, the first 20 minutes or more, we were just literally trying route one straight over the top. So when you do one ball over the top, he's one guy and you've got 4 defenders closing on him. What do you expect to happen? I mean, even if it's USL versus him being in Major League Soccer, being a DP, there's only so much you can do here. But what I want everybody to take away from this is that how he was able to stay in it. And then when we finally started to get to possession, he was pulling defenders away. He is a tremendous target. So, even though he may not have gotten the numbers, he was pulling defenders away, opening up space for Ledesma, for Bone, for Al-Badawi to move. And you saw Corbin get 2 goals. I really do chalk that up for some of the off-the-ball movement from Audi. Early on, he was trying to come back. He was trying to get the ball. He was trying to get involved. Like Ledesma, Adi's got to get the ball. He's got to get the rhythm of the match. But he's an intelligent soccer player. He knows what he's doing on the field. So I want you guys, instead of being so harsh on some of his movement or what you might think is lack of movement, he's being smart in his positioning, trying to pull people off of the ball, and that opens up more space for Ledesma. Al-Badawi, we saw some long, dangerous shots for them early in the first half. That's because he's pulling defenders away. And guess what? We've seen Nas and Manu make those. So all we need is just a little bit of change. Maybe somebody can pounce on some of those if we miss. And all of a sudden, you guys are going to be chalking up to, oh, look at how great Audi is with his ball movements. I just want you guys to notice some of that and maybe not be as so harsh on him,
sure,
as we might be. And that stuff, like these are movements that people say, oh, throw Koenig in, throw Welshman in. They're not going to pull defenders away like Audi does. It doesn't happen.
Yeah. And we're seeing it too. I think one guy that probably doesn't get the credit, and maybe that's, I think he has gotten a lot of credit, but probably deserves even more credit, is what Corbin Bone has done for this team this year. The space that he was given because of Audi pulling guys away there on that first goal to tie it up was brilliant. And even the touch into him from Ledesma was spectacular. But let's talk a little bit too about Corbin Bone becoming the second player in FC Cincinnati history to earn 100 appearances for the club, Trisha. That is a pretty remarkable achievement.
No, I agree. I think Corbin is one of those players where he just consistently gets better and better and better. And I think that his performance this weekend was really, really fantastic. I mean, like we've said, he got a brace. He was able to take those chances. And I would also like to agree with what Brad said about Adi. I feel like so many people think he's an MLS player. We're paying him $2 million. Why isn't he coming in and scoring every single match? But it just doesn't work that way. Obviously, we'd like to see it, but there's so much more to being on the pitch than just scoring a goal. And I think that Adi deserves a little bit more credit, and people kind of need to relax with the what are we paying you for mentality. Because I think that even though he's not putting as many numbers on the board, what he's contributing on the pitch is leading to goals, even if he's not the one getting them.
Sorry, when like Trisha just said, they're covering Adi like crazy. They're going to have to start moving away from him because Corbin's getting 2 goals a game. The moment they start covering or they pull a player off Adi and take another guy towards Ledesma or take another guy towards Bone,
boom.
Wait till then. That's when you see Adi go off for a hat trick in the first half.
Yeah. And I think people have a quick memory because Sean Okoli was the same type of player, right? He garnered a lot of attention that first year for FC Cincinnati, and it looked like he was a lazy guy, not interested, but he had a different job. His job was to hold up play and get others involved. And it's very similar to what Adi's doing here for FC Cincinnati. Sure, would we love Adi to go out and score 10 goals here this season? Sure, but it just wasn't going to happen. That's not how defenses are going to defend against him. So one other note we should mention, too, is that at that point was the 10th goal for Corbin Bone. He became the 4th FC Cincinnati player this year to get double-digit goals, and that is the first time in USL history a club has had 4 double-digit goal scorers. Another remarkable feat here in what has turned out to be just an incredible year for FC Cincinnati in the USL. A couple of other notes, too, about this match. We saw Tyler Gibson get a good run in Saturday night against Nashville SC. Thought he played really, really well, Brad.
Yeah, I was looking at his heat map, and he was a nightmare for Nashville. He was all over the pitch. He was able to get everybody involved in the play. I liked how he worked with Lahoud. They're still developing that relationship, but there's a reason we signed Tyler Gibson and why San Francisco, he was basically the MVP the second half of the season, and Alan Koch called him a maestro heading into this year. I really like his work rate, and I think as he's going to continue to improve. I think he's going to play a humongous role in the second half of the year, not only stopping, as a line of defense in front of the defense, but then springing some counters and getting some scoring opportunities for our front four. So I'm really excited what I see here, and I'm excited. I'm really interested to see how Alan's going to roll this out in this weekend. Is he going to go with the Gibson Lahoud pairing again, or is he going to go Alashe Lahoud or Alashe Gibson? So I'm really excited to see what we have here. And, he's got a lot of options here. I mean, we're not even talking about Richie Ryan. We're not even talking about Kenny Walker, who's been Kenny Walker's been a huge part of this season. Yeah. So you can be dangerous with all these weapons, or it can be a little challenging. So we'll see.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, if you think that the midfield is kind of like the thing that sets the pace or sets the tempo for the game, so to speak, of moving the ball around, then, going from Gibson and Lahoud and then switching it up completely and putting in Alashe and Walker certainly would leave Nashville kind of confused as to what to expect. I mean, it's going to be a big turnaround for the team. So it'll be very interesting to see how Alan handles that, whether he does change that up and how far he does.
So that is that. Nashville and FC Cincinnati ends 3-3 in what was a thrilling match. Final regular season match between these two clubs, as obviously FC Cincinnati moving on to MLS, Nashville staying in USL for another season. These two teams are going to face off one more time this upcoming week at Nippert Stadium. Kickoff at 4 o'clock. Get your tickets. They are still available. We are going to be joined by Jason Davis here in just a few moments, but we want to remind you that this upcoming Saturday we will be live at Top Cats with our special pre-playoff edition of Cincinnati Soccer Talk. We're going to be joined by special guest Kevin McCloskey. He is the FC Cincinnati color commentator on television and radio. So looking forward to visiting with Kevin to get his thoughts on the matchup with Nashville SC. And we're hoping to unveil one more special guest this upcoming Saturday. So the show starts at 1:15 at Top Cats. And Brad, I believe there is a potluck going on at Top Cats.
Yeah. Everybody's encouraged to bring their favorite dish to share, so don't be skimpy. And our boy Yosef's got to eat, so make sure you guys bring plenty of food.
Yosef is too skinny.
No, you should see him put away some buffalo chicken dip. That dude can do some work.
That is impressive. Probably like me with queso.
There you go. So guys, bring queso, and somebody bring buffalo chicken dip.
Yeah, someone definitely bring queso.
So we will be live this upcoming week on Saturday from Top Cats at 1:15 in advance of the big playoff match between FC Cincinnati and Nashville SC. And so without further ado, we are pleased to have joined us here on Cincinnati Soccer Talk. What I like to say is the greatest soccer podcaster / radio host in this great country. You've heard him on such shows as Soccer Morning. You've heard him on such shows as The Best Soccer Show. He is now the host of the United States of Soccer on SiriusXM FC. He is the one and only Jason Davis. He joins us now, not via the King's Hammer telephone line, but the King's Hammer Hangout. Jason, how are you, buddy?
Nick, why do you do that to me? You put so much pressure on me when I come on this show with all the incredible introduction. Thank you very much for having me, guys.
Oh, I appreciate it. By the way, I love the set you got there, the headset. I'm a little jealous.
The headset is for work. I travel with this sometimes. That's why I'm wearing it. I'm at a friend's house. So this is my friend's house, and I've set everything up here so I can talk to you guys on a Monday night.
Well, so the Batman's not you then?
I'm sorry?
The Batman's not you then?
No, the Batman belongs to good friends of mine. They're big Batman people. So yeah.
Well, we appreciate you being on the show with us, Jason. Let's talk a little bit about FC Cincinnati, and I want to talk about Major League Soccer because I know that's mainly your forte. But let's talk a little bit about their USL season so far. And I just want to get an idea of how much are you aware of what they have done this year. Obviously, you can look at the standing sheet and you can see,
sure,
yeah, they're the top team in the USL. But how aware do you think the general soccer community is of the fact that they haven't lost since May? They're on a 23-match unbeaten run.
Wow, Nick, that's a tough question. Partly because I live in a bubble, right? And I live in my soccer bubble. I create my own soccer bubble, and that's for the job, being aware as much as I can. And there's only so much I can take in. I'm one person, but I'm aware because I want to cover USL. I want to bring in experts. I want to talk to Alan Koch. I want to talk to Jeff Birding. I want to talk to everybody that I can get on the show. I mean, tomorrow I'm not sure who our USL guest is, but I'm sure we're going to have one because we focus in on the second division on Tuesdays. So I'm aware. I would guess that the average MLS fan is mostly unaware. That would just be my guess. I just think it's tough unless you have a team in USL that you actively support to stay on top of that league as much as, you know, all the national outlets are covering MLS. It's ESPN, it's SI, and when you're talking about USL, you have to be actively reaching out to that league to try to get there. And it's not because USL doesn't do a good job of selling the league. I think they do a fine job. It's just, again, it's that second level. I mean, do you know who the reigning Division II I guess they're the championship in football is? I don't know who that is, and I love football, but it's a little extra to go that far, you know?
Yeah, so Jason, thanks for coming on. Brad Weigel here, and you mentioned his name just a minute ago, Alan Koch. And I was on the MLS Aces podcast this week, and they were asking about how we're building this team, but the guy building it, and it's Alan Koch. You know, he came from Vancouver Whitecaps too. He's had two successful years in my mind at FC Cincinnati here. How do you think he's done it as a manager the last 2 years, and do you think that he's positioned for success heading into MLS next year? You know, taking that jump, which we don't really see a lot of coaches that stay with the same club taking that jump to Major League Soccer.
Yeah, how many coaches have made that jump? I'm trying to think. Obviously, Adrian Heath made the jump, but it didn't work out real well for him. That's the best example we've got. I think Tater Torderson did it, 8 years ago with the Whitecaps. So that doesn't bode well for Allen, and yet I know it's a different situation. And I am somebody who wants to be sure that we are taking individual situations and looking at individual circumstances. And I think that FC Cincinnati is fascinating because the approach is clearly different than we saw Orlando take, or we've seen some of these other expansion clubs take. They are trying to bridge the gap to MLS actively during their final lower division season. Who does that? I mean, seriously, who does that? This is kind of groundbreaking territory. So based on the fact that they haven't lost since May, and the team is actively looking for MLS level talent in the final USL season, and maybe they're going to swing and miss sometimes, particularly because MLS doesn't want them to break the rules. That still, it bodes well for building a side that can be competitive. I don't know that I think FC Cincinnati is going to be Atlanta in their first year or LAFC in their first year, and I'm not to the point yet where I can judge that. I'm not saying they can't be. I just don't know enough. But I know Ledesma can play, and I know he's also 30. I know that they're going after that MLS level talent right now. I have a sense that they'll be attractive to a lot of players because of the fan base, because of Allen's success, especially if they win a USL Cup in their final year. or USL Championship, whatever we call that thing. And because they're putting in the money and the effort to build the training facility and the stadium, and those things really do attract players.
Jason, you mentioned LAFC and Atlanta and their success. I mean, do you think expansion teams have a little bit of an advantage, or do you think that, it's just kind of a fluke that they've done as well as they have?
I think that those two teams dumped significant resources into their first-year teams in a way. I mean, Minnesota's the opposite example, right? They chose to slow play until they got their stadium open. Now they brought in Quintero and they brought in another DP, and they're obviously making an effort, and they've taken a tiny little step forward, but they clearly didn't want to put resources in until they got to their new venue. Atlanta said, well, we're going to play in a college football venue for half the year, but then we'll get our own place. LAFC was always going into Bank of California Stadium in their first year. So they had that impetus to push for, because I think it's important to capture that enthusiasm in your new building, wherever your home is going to be, wherever you're putting down your roots. Cincinnati is obviously going to do something kind of in between again. I mean, they're going to build the new stadium, but in the meantime, they've got to play in a temporary venue. So I don't know that advantage is the right word. I think it's all about what their ownership are willing to commit to. And I also do think it's about coach and an understanding of a plan and what that is. Tata Martino had a plan, and he was enabled by Carlos Bocanegra and by Darren Eales. And out in LA, Bob Bradley had a plan, and John Thorrington helped him, and they put together a team. I don't know if they can make the playoff or make a run deep in the playoffs, but that's a different question. But at least for the regular season, we know that they've been effective and successful.
No, you make a great point talking about plans, and we've seen FC Cincinnati make some impressive moves so far. We've seen them add some quality MLS players to the roster. You see Fatai Alashe coming in from San Jose, was on the verge of making the men's national team, and then they've signed a designated player and a proven goal scorer in Fernando Adi. Plus, you've even seen the rumors of possible Fabian Johnson with MLS nixing that move, but it looks like they might have a plan in progress to bring in some high quality talent for, say, Minnesota, who had to rely on less proven candidates, or Orlando bringing in a Brian Roches.
Right, Brand. It's about the willingness. It's about resources. I mean, you have to. I was talking about this on my show today. Deep pockets drive everything. Because Joey Saputo right now is kind of going through this period where he's like, I'm losing a bunch of money. I don't know if I can keep this going. I might need to bring in new investment. We wanted to expand the stadium, but the taxes are too much. That indicates to me that Joey Saputo just doesn't have. I don't know if my camera froze, guys, but
it did a little bit. That's okay.
Joey Saputo obviously doesn't have the sort of resources that an Arthur Blank does, and so Atlanta's success, while it's about a plan and it's about a cohesive idea and it's certainly about a good head coach and it's about a way of playing, it's also about money. Joey doesn't have the money to make Montreal and Atlanta United. And I don't think Cincinnati is going to be in a position, no matter the size of the market, to be lagging behind everybody, at least initially. And I do think that Arthur's proven that, you guys already have the fan base. I mean, that's the thing here. It's already built in. If you've want to spend the money, there's already been a reaction to soccer in Cincinnati. Now you can justify going and spending big money to be competitive in year one, rather than sort of having to build up to it the way that they'd have done in Minnesota. And it's not that Bill McGuire doesn't want to be competitive, but I don't think that Bill McGuire says, I can drop 50 mil this year and still be okay in year three. And that's maybe the biggest difference.
Okay, so speaking of investing money in teams and having a good fan base, hi, Jason, I'm Trisha.
Hi, Trisha.
I wanted to get your thoughts on Columbus Crew. So apparently the crew has been saved, which is very exciting for everyone involved. I'm very happy for the city of Columbus. I think that the fans absolutely deserve it. I think we deserve to have that rivalry with them. How does this look for FC Cincinnati? How does the crew being saved affect us down south?
Well, I mean, you guys would obviously be in a better position to say what it means from a local perspective. But I do think that if we're talking about what will help the crew and certainly give Cincinnati a bit of extra juice nationally, not just in town, because, again, you guys show up, is that rivalry. And maybe only 2 games a year or 3 games a year because MLS does weird scheduling, but it's still going to feed into that sort of concoction that MLS has been utilizing for the past 10, 15 years now to really make the league go. And I think, I imagine it's going to be pretty intense when league matches happen between Columbus and Cincinnati. And I'm super excited to see that. I think the Crew being saved is good for MLS on the whole, because MLS can't afford to alienate its fan base, because although it's growing and certainly in certain places there are pockets of good attendance numbers, we certainly have seen teams struggle, and we've seen teams that don't put in as much money find it harder to capture a significant fan base and be successful. And yes, somebody has to lose, and that's always the problem. But I think MLS, because their relationship with soccer fans in the United States is still developing, because so many soccer fans in the U.S. have still not given themselves over to MLS. They're still Premier League fans first, or Mexican League fans first, or Bundesliga fans first, that MLS cannot afford to alienate the ones who are willing to make the effort to come to them. And if you say, well, your team can be stolen at any moment, if some guy from California shows up, then why would you give yourself over to your team, even if they are brand new at MLS and you have been out to support them for the last 3 years in USL? Why would you do that? Doesn't make any sense to me from an emotional, because that's the thing that sports teams sell to us, is that emotional connection. We can buy the gear and we're customers on some level, but if we don't have that emotional connection, it's all too fragile to keep going.
We're hanging out with Jason Davis. He is the host of the United States of Soccer on SiriusXM FC. He does a great job with that show. And Jason, I tuned in today, and I heard you had a really nice conversation with Morgan Hughes, the man behind Save the Crew. So I got to ask, obviously this movement was huge. It paved the way to saving the Crew. But how surprised are you that this actually happened? Because we don't typically see this when it comes to pro sports franchises. Typically, it doesn't work out for the fans.
Yeah, I saw there was an account today, and it was a kind of a Save the Crew flavored Twitter account. I don't know if that was their reason for being, if they were created for Save the Crew, but it was a Crew oriented account, and they were tweeting, "We saved the receipts," and they had pictures of Stu Holden saying, "I don't think the Crew can be saved," and a picture of some other pundit saying, "I don't think the Crew can be saved," and I felt like that was the wrong response from this account. Okay, look, I'm glad you're happy that the Crew got saved, and I understand there's a bit of Schadenfreude or whatever for the pre-court group, or you want to kind of brag about the success that Save the Crew had, but we really didn't know a year ago. We could not have known 6 months ago. It certainly looked, because as you said, Nick, there's no real reason to believe that if an owner wants to take a team out of its city in American professional sports, that anybody can stop them. Unless the location they want to go to just doesn't open their doors. And certainly Austin plays a role in this, because it hasn't been a red carpet, because they've had some problems. But I don't know that anybody really thought that this was going to end well 8, 6, 4, 2 months ago. So I'm thrilled. I would say I'm 70 to 85% surprised that this is the way things have ended up. But I'm pleasantly surprised, and naturally, I think I'm glad that this happened, and it does prove that fans can make a difference. And if you make enough noise, because I think this is really what we're talking about here.
Yeah.
If you make enough noise, people with money will pay attention and go, "Oh, look at all those people. They're super engaged with that thing." Yeah, maybe they didn't show up last year or the year before because Anthony Precourt didn't market, or because Anthony Precourt got rid of all their promotions, or because Anthony Precourt's schedule sucked because he didn't care to tell MLS to make it better. But they might show up now because suddenly they're all invigorated. And I asked Morgan about this today, because I'm fascinated by this chain of events that is essentially Haslam showing up, riding his white horse to save the Crew, because a bunch of people suddenly care about the Crew who maybe didn't 5 years ago. And that's, first of all, that's a bad precedent on some level, even though the result is good.
I'm going to ask you, it was $150 million. Now it might be a $200 million question. How does this, they're talking about the Crew here getting an expansion franchise while Precourt's able to move, I don't know what you're going to call it, team to Austin. But, how does this affect the MLS expansion process? I mean, you've got St. Louis, who looks like they might have a great ownership group coming up. You've had Phoenix, who's doing well. They've got a good ownership group that control the land. You've got San Antonio, who now might be out because of the Austin.
Yeah,
we still forget Sacramento. You're talking about a team in a fan base packing the stands and saying, "We want in, we want in," and they can't get in. How do you think this might affect the expansion process? Do we stop at 28, as they say?
Yeah.
Do we move on? What do you think?
I don't think there's any real reason to think that MLS will stop at 28 right now. And I don't even know what kind of action they could take to convince us of that. they will never shut the door completely because that's bad for business. They will completely kill off any demand. They'll kill off. I mean, and this is going to sound cynical as hell, but we just saw it with Anthony Precourt in Austin. If you say, well, we're not expanding, well, then you sort of stop cities from angling for MLS teams. And now you create an environment, if you do shut it off, where the only way to get a team is to get somebody to move to your city. We certainly don't want that. I think that we can't know if MLS is going to stop at 28 no matter what Don Garber says. But if we're buying into the idea that they are, this does create a lot of problems at the expansion process now, because as somebody has rightfully pointed out, if you're St. Louis, if you're San Diego, who may not be on the right end of things with their plan, but if it goes their way in the vote in a couple of weeks, they could be in the mix. If you're Detroit, who I think is still a city that MLS wants, even if the plan's not perfect. If you're Tampa, I mean, we didn't even say San Diego and Landon Donovan's group. Yeah, I mean, that's, again, San Diego may be in trouble because of the vote that's on the ballot. But if they do get it to go their way, if you're one of those ownership groups and one of those investment groups, and you hear that Anthony Precourt's basically getting a free expansion team, so to speak, because he threatened to move, even if it technically is Columbus getting an expansion team, unless Haslam is paying the $200 million or the $250 million that it costs to get an expansion team right now in Major League Soccer, then you have to be mad. You have to be angry. You have to be upset. You have to say, well, wait a second. One of those spots that we were going for that you told us was available is now suddenly unavailable because you saved the crew, but you let Anthony Precourt go to Austin.
Yeah. So kind of coming back around on the expansion from maybe a different angle as well. It's been kind of surprising, I think, for some people, when you see the MLS and how it laid out early, it was a lot of West Coast and a lot of East Coast. And suddenly there's just been this soccer just surge in the Midwest. And of course you got FCC, you've got the Save the Crew movement. You've got places like Indy, Louisville, and the USL, St. Louis, all teams looking to potentially have MLS bids. You've got Detroit. I mean, what do you think of this surge of interest in soccer in the Midwest?
Well, I mean, I'm sure that there was always a latent interest in soccer in the Midwest, but I think it's obviously natural for any league that's looking to make a mark, sort of big picture, to focus on the major cities that are East and West Coast. And, I joke about it sometimes. I'm not being dismissive. I've lived in Kansas. I've lived in some places in the middle of the country, but the people live on the coast, and certainly most of the people live on the East Coast, if you want to be specific about it. So the league went to where, and I mean, Columbus being one of the original MLS franchises was a big upset at the time. I mean, you think about the way the league was positioning itself to be in Columbus, Ohio in 1996. It's like, why? What are you doing? That doesn't make any sense. There's Baltimore, and there's Jacksonville. I mean, not Jacksonville's, whatever. There's Charlotte. There's whatever. There's a number of East Coast cities, or even Eastern Seaboard type cities that they could have gone to, and they went to Columbus instead. So, I mean, I think it's just sort of the natural progression of the sport. I mean, we saw Atlanta, a place that most people didn't think would respond to soccer, explode. We've seen it with Cincinnati. We've got it coming in Nashville, hopefully next year or 2 years from now when they launch. So I think that and St. Louis wants a team, and they've got a history. It's just, sort of that sort of, instead of Manifest Destiny going west, it's kind of just coming together in the center because of LA and San Francisco or San Jose or whatever.
Well, Jason, we appreciate you being with us. So I'll get you out here with this question.
Okay.
One bit of advice that you would give FC Cincinnati and general manager Jeff Birding and technical director Luke Sassano, who obviously they have a short run. They don't have a whole lot of time, because once this USL season wraps up, they've got to get ready for the expansion draft. They've got to get ready for the super draft. I mean, there's a lot that needs to be done before kickoff come next March.
Wow. A bit of advice. I think every team has a different approach, and certainly I can't know what the budgets are going to be for FC Cincinnati going into Major League Soccer, but they certainly have shown some ambition already. And I do think that it matters if you make a splash. And that sounds sort of simple and reductive, but I think it matters if you grab a player, if you sign a coach, if you do something that seems to be above your station. And MLS is constantly reaching above its station, and that's how you get to the next station, is if you sign the Carlos Vela when nobody thinks you can, when you get a Tata Martino in when nobody thinks you can. And I think FC Cincinnati is positioned, and maybe it was Fabian Johnson, and maybe that'll come back around, but they're positioned with everything that's been going for them to make that sort of splash. Maybe it'll just be because the crowds will be so big, and maybe the enthusiasm of the city will carry into the club. But you saw it with Minnesota, and I don't think Cincinnati is like Minnesota. I'm not comparing the two necessarily, but you saw it with Minnesota. Nobody paid attention to them. I mean, they were a bad team. That didn't help, but nobody paid attention to them because they didn't have anything that seemed sexy enough. And look, that's unfair to Miguel Ibarra and to Christian Ramirez before they traded him, and to some of the players that they had that were good, but they decided that they were going to slow play it. And I'm not saying it's backfired, and they'll probably be fine when they get to Allianz next year. But if you want to be something now, make a splash. Do it in the winter when everybody's paying attention to FC Cincinnati, because you are getting players to the expansion draft. You are putting together your roster. You are building towards your first year in MLS.
Good stuff, Jason. As always, we appreciate it. We had a few people in our chats tonight wanting to know where they can find your show on the Sirius and XM dials. Fill us in.
Okay. SiriusXM, 12 to 2 p.m. Eastern Time, channel 157 is the number. I know it's way up there, but it's okay. You just put it into your presets, and it'll be there at all times.
Number 2, Jason. Number 2.
I don't know why. Do I want to know what number 1 is, Brad? Should I be worried about this?
Want to know.
Okay. All right.
Number 2 is closer than number 1.
Okay. I'm fine with it as long as we're there somewhere. So yeah, 12 to 2, and I'll shout out my other project. I'm doing video stuff.
Yes.
Compass Football, YouTube, Facebook at the moment, getting it up on Twitter through Periscope usually. Right now, we just got one show going called Lower League America, which since FC Cincinnati will graduate out of next year. But if you're interested in lower league stuff, we've covered a bunch of different big stories. We just did Detroit City FC, talking about their big question about going pro. I do that with Nipun Chopra from Sock Takes, who's a good dude and knows his stuff. And hopefully we'll have a couple new shows in the very near future covering all sorts of stuff in soccer. It's not going to be just the one. It's going to be hopefully varied and interesting. So check that out.
That is why he's the soccer godfather. If you don't have a Sirius radio in your car, download it on the app. It's great to listen to while you're at work. Jason, we appreciate it. Last time we had you on, we said you got to come to Cincinnati for a match. We got to make that happen here in 2019, man.
Yeah. It's coming. Look, 2018 has been kind of crazy, but I'm pretty sure I'm gonna get to Cincinnati next year. So I'm very, very hopeful. If I have to do it on my own dime, if I have to figure out a way to get the radio show on the road myself, I will make sure it happens so I can come to Cincinnati, see you guys, see the crowd, see the stadium, see the team, get the full experience.
You're one step there already with the headset, bud.
Okay, all right. I can make it happen. Let's do it.
You're the man. I appreciate it. As always, you're the best.
Thank you, guys. Thank you very much. Have a good night.
You too. That's Jason Davis joining us here on the Kings Hammer Hotline. I'm not joking when I tell you he is tremendous at covering soccer here, not just American soccer. He talks a little bit about soccer abroad as well. But I'll tell you what, I was a huge fan of his show, Soccer Morning. I was a super fan, tuned in every morning at work, and he's just continued to just roll there at SiriusXM.
Dude, it's just cool to see. I mean, honestly, my relationship with Jason Davis and listening to his show goes back further than FC Cincinnati.
You're right. Yeah, I mean that was a show way before FC Cincinnati even existed. So we appreciate Jason being on the show with us. As always, go check out his stuff. Compass Football is a cool project he's doing as well. You can find it on social, Facebook and Twitter, and YouTube. All right, it's that time of the show where we shout out our tremendous supporters. So let's give it up to our awesome supporters. First to Kings Hammer and Tim Bronsel. Thank you so much for your support. Matt Adamczyk, Mama Subs, Brian Malone, Jamie Smed, Mike Hudson, Jonas Tom, Jack Emery, Mike Bowman, Kathleen Francis, Jesse King, Teresa Everidge, Matt Inholt, Sagan Sagai, and Matthew Long. Thank you so much for your support of Cincinnati Soccer Talk. To learn more on how you can support the show, log on to CincinnatiSoccerTalk.com/support. So let's talk a little bit about this crew news, guys. And we touched on it with Jason, but I think it's important that we discuss what it means for FC Cincinnati. Because now we were concerned about who's FC Cincinnati's big rival going to be. And I think what has happened this year on the pitch with Nashville SC has kind of laid that foundation for when they join Major League Soccer in a couple years. But let's face it, with the crew staying put or appearing to be staying put, this is going to take Cincy Louisville to a whole nother level, Bill.
Yeah, it's going to be electric. I mean, we saw a little bit of it with the Open Cup run already. There was a lot of anger and let's just leave it at anger and say that, I think you see that kind of energy. You see the crowd they brought down. I think that was one of the best away crowds we've ever had. And we're going to go up there and do the same kind of thing. It's going to be every one of those games is going to matter whether they matter or not. So it's going to be fun.
Yeah. And let's also let the folks know, I mean, you were a former Crew season ticket holder. So when the Crew were, when it was planned that they were going to leave, I mean, obviously FC Cincinnati was here now, so it kind of filled that void a little bit. But I mean, how excited are you for? I'm sure you've got friends that are Crew fans, being a season ticket holder, that you've got to be feeling really good for.
Oh, absolutely. For people who don't know, I was born and raised in Columbus. That's my hometown. So
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
OH.
IO. And I am
Sorry,
also an Ohio State Buckeye, the Ohio State University graduate.
Me too.
And
So
but anyway, yeah. And we never knew that. No, I knew that from you. But I'm also a University of Cincinnati graduate. So
well played.
There we go. See? 2 homes. But anyway, aside from all that, Columbus was my home. I've got family there. I actually moved down here long enough ago that I was here before the Crew started. But I went home for a lot of the games. I was a season ticket holder. I went up and watched like every game for several years with my dad. And that was just like an excuse to go home and visit. So, it was a big deal. It was a family thing. And, my brother still lives there. I've got my sister-in-law up there. So, a lot of Crew fans in the family. So I'm happy for them. They're excited. And, I'm excited for all of Cincinnati as well.
I'm just glad we don't have to be nice to him, dude. That's it. I'm just glad we don't have to be nice as Crew supporters anymore.
Before Brad donned the orange and blue, let's also admit too, you were a Crew fan as well.
Yeah, but I've been up in the Nordeca a couple times, and I've not been treated as kindly as I have in the Bailey. And so, I rooted for him because I wanted him to do well. But now this rivalry is about ready to be live, and I'm excited for it. I tweeted this week. I think one of the main reasons why FC Cincinnati was so successful the last couple of years was the relationship with Louisville, and how, I mean, it was a big deal. Everybody knew, no matter what, my mother, my father, grandparents, they knew all of a sudden we hated Louisville, and now we're going to hate Columbus. And so I think that's what leads to great franchises, great, rivalries. That's what's going to build and grow soccer in this state, in this region, is this rivalry we're going to have with the Crew. And so I'm excited for it. The support ends now. FC Cincinnati is my team. And, I don't wish them, anything good, especially after Frankie Heiduck's, little
tirade,
Twitter battle. That was, it was BS. It was an unclass you can get, and that's what I expect from them anymore.
Speaking of letting us know how you really feel,
we're going all out. I'm no posing anymore.
So is there any better way to kick off the 2019 MLS season? It probably won't happen because they want the build up, but how great would it be, Trisha, if Crew SC and FC Cincinnati were the opening match of the 2019 season?
I think that would be the best way to start the 2019 season. It would be better than our home opener against that team down south that I hate even mentioning, because I actually have respect for the Crew. But I think that would be a good way to start the season. I think their fans would enjoy it. Our fans would enjoy it. I would like to see that.
Yeah. Obviously the MLS schedule makers don't particularly care.
No.
But they want to save it for rivalry weeks, which is
Yep.
for good for TV. So I totally get that. But man, that would be just epic.
We can dream.
Yeah, we can dream. So for those who maybe aren't aware of why the Crew are staying, the Browns owner Jimmy Haslam and the Columbus Crew doctor Pete Edwards are part of the ownership group trying to purchase the team from Anthony Precourt. So it's tough to tell, and some of the details aren't even fully out there yet, but we're not sure if they're buying an expansion team and keeping them in Columbus, or if Anthony Precourt is selling the Crew and he's getting the expansion team. A lot to be determined, a lot to be worked out. But in the end, what it means is there's a natural built-in rivalry, another one in Major League Soccer, not one that's created just for the sake of creating one like Columbus and Toronto. I mean, you can kiss that rivalry out the window if that's even one that you call. What do they play for? The Trillium Cup or something like
Trillium
that?
Cup.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, it's a made up rivalry because the Crew needed one, and there was nobody
no one cares
closer.
about that.
Right. So now you've got the Hell is Real Derby, and it's going to happen multiple times next year, and it's going to be tremendous. It's going to be a lot of fun to watch. So a lot of exciting soccer for not just 2019, but gosh, we still have some leading up to this weekend with Nashville SC, a big playoff match coming up, 4 o'clock. Get your tickets. They're still on sale. Packed up place. It's going to be a blue out. So wear your FCC blue coming up on Saturday. Kickoff at 4 p.m. Let's talk a little bit about that match, particularly in between the sticks. Now, you got Evan Newton, who just won the Golden Gloves. He's got the best record in USL this year. However, Spencer Ritchie has played a lot of minutes over the last few months for this club. So who do you go with in goal, Brad?
If it was me, I'm honestly not sure. I haven't noticed in my mind that much difference between them. I was literally today. I've spent all day trying to research why they've chosen Richie in the last 6 of 8. I want to say he's like the last 6 of 8, and I want to say it's like 9 of 12. So he's been the guy the last third of the season. And I mean, their distribution is about the same. Their save percentage is not that far off. So it confuses me. You know, Newton just won the Golden Gloves, but I'm thinking it's going to be Spencer Ritchie. You know, if we start Newton this weekend, it will literally be his first start in like
3 weeks,
3.5 weeks, 3.5 weeks. So it's I don't know, and I'm gonna trust Alan and Jack Stern. That's why they get paid the big bucks.
No pressure on those guys. Is there anything that any one keeper you're leaning towards, Trisha?
It pains me to say this because I love Spencer Ritchie so much, but my gut says to start Evan. And I say that because I'm having like war flashbacks to penalty kicks. I love you, Spencer. I'm so sorry. But I think Evan would be my go-to in the event that it came down to penalty kicks.
That is an interesting point, Bill. You know, obviously PKs are now in play the rest of the way. And we have seen, you know, obviously Evan Newton has stopped penalty kicks this year. I don't know who is a better penalty stopper, but we do know Evan Newton has stopped a penalty this year. Is there one way that you're leaning here?
I'm leaning a little bit towards Newton as well, partly for the same reason. Just this gut feeling somehow that in a PK situation, he's better. And I'm actually sitting here watching YouTube as I'm getting stats put up by Connor. Richie 66% save rate, Newton 78% save rate. Anyway, interesting. But without stats, that was just sort of my general feeling was that for PKs it would kind of work. But there's this other thing in the back of my head right now that it's kind of like when we played Nashville, we had a pretty decent chance of playing them again, right? I mean, it wasn't a guarantee, but it was a pretty decent chance we play them again. And I almost wonder if there isn't kind of the idea that you go out there with a certain set of players, and there's no doubt we went out there with the opportunity to win. I mean, that was a top class group. We weren't holding back, but we're so deep that we have the opportunity. For instance, you got two great keepers like Newton and Richie. Why not make a change? We've got midfielders like Kenny Walker, like Fatai Alashe, who didn't play. Why not make some changes? So for me, I kind of feel like, this is an opportunity for Allen to go and make some adjustments that puts a different look to our team out there, leaves Nashville in a situation where they just played us, but they kind of don't know us. And we probably pretty much know who we're going to see when we take the pitch.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's gonna be on them, but I don't know. 9 matches, or was it 8 matches, and Richie's played, 3/4 of them. So it's gonna be tough. I don't want any rust, and maybe Richie has a little bit more familiarity with the back line, positioning his defenders and distributing the ball. I don't know, but it's kind of crazy to me. We were looking at this earlier, and like I said, 9 of 12 have been from Richie. But before that, the last 12, Newton had 5 of 6 clean sheets. So it's like, why has FC Cincinnati switched to Richie versus Newton, even though Newton's had that success? So I'm glad it's not on me, is all I can say, William.
Right. I agree 100%. This is why Allen gets the big bucks, and I do not envy him the choices he has to make this weekend.
I mean, how many times have you seen a Golden Glove winner not start the first match in the playoffs?
Yeah. It would raise eyebrows.
Yeah. So I don't know. I don't know what's going on.
It is a tough call. What we do know is that it is going to be a big matchup. 3 games this year. Neither team came out with 3 points. Just you thought FC Cincinnati was going to pull it out Saturday night, and then it just didn't happen. They end up with the draw. So something's got to give this weekend, and we will be discussing that quite a bit this upcoming Saturday at our pre-playoff special edition of Cincinnati Soccer Talk. We got to figure out. It's a mouthful. We got to figure out an actual term or what we're going to call that show Saturday, but it's going to be a good one. So make sure you come out on Saturday. We are live starting at 1:15. We're going to have Kevin McCloskey, who is the color analyst for FC Cincinnati radio and TV. Again, he's going to come out and he's going to break it all down for us. He's going to tell us why FC Cincinnati is going to prevail on Saturday. So come out to Top Cats, bring a dish. There's going to be a potluck there. Get your chow on. I think, again, as we mentioned earlier, Yosef needs to eat, so please bring some food. Hashtag free pizza. Remember that. That's an oldie but a goodie. So come out, join us. I will be there. Yes, for a live show. I'm going to be in Cincinnati, so please stop out, say hello, and it's going to be a good time. So we'll do a little bit more of a breakdown as far as that goes on Saturday. We're also going to have a special March to Match Day. Brian is going to catch up with the guys from Club and Country as Brad shakes his head. So make sure you get subscribed to the podcast so you don't miss a single episode of Cincinnati Soccer Talk. Okay. Wow, that hour flew by. I can't believe it's already 10:04. Holy crap. Very fast hour. Good to talk with Jason Davis. It's about that time of the show where we wrap up with our final thoughts. So I'll kick it over to you, Trisha Hauser. Thanks for being on the show again this week. Your final thoughts?
Thank you. My final thoughts. I just want to say a prayer to Beyonce that someone tackles Tucker Hume on Saturday. That's literally all I want. Obviously a win, but I'm going to say a prayer to Beyonce, Rihanna, whoever I need to pray to, that something unfortunate will happen to him. If that's what I need to do, that's fine. I'll do it.
Well, Trisha, we appreciate you being with us, and we really like the sparkly pumpkins behind you.
Thank you. It's Halloween. It's spooky. It's cute. You're welcome for that.
Thank you, Trisha. Looking forward to seeing you this weekend as well.
Thank you.
Final thoughts, Brad Weigel?
I guess I got to bring up the cute. I don't have anything back behind me or on on
You
my
should be ashamed
screen.
of that, Bradley.
Yeah, I'm not allowed to.
Let's not go there.
Not gotten the required permissions, but excited for Saturday. You know, I feel good about it. We had our front four, really front six. They played well. I think our thing is Nashville. They're not going to be able to play as tight on our wide pitch at Nippert. It's bigger. It's tough to pack in. And I think as long as we can keep that counterattack in line, we're going to be good. You know, Rapapa Mensah's fast. Allen wins smart. We got to keep Brandon Allen on a leash, but I'm feeling really good about it. This curse is going down Saturday. I'm extremely confident about it, and we're going for this cup here. So I'm looking forward to seeing everybody at the show Saturday, getting their predictions, and I'm excited to take a little bit of Iron Pony's money this week as well.
Good stuff, Brad. As always, I appreciate you being on the show.
Here for you.
And last but not least, the Wolfman, Bill Wolf.
Oh, got me closing out. Well, I'm with Brad. I'm optimistic. I think this is going to be a good game Saturday. It's time for us to finally beat Nashville. It's been 4 games if you count the preseason with draws. There's going to be a winner this Saturday, and it is not going to be them. I have a lot of confidence in the city, in the Bailey, and the fans that we will be the 12th man. We will make the difference, and we will send Nashville home with their heads down.
All right, you
no
heard it here
big bird
first.
this Saturday, guys. No big bird.
Yes, got to
He going
continue.
down.
Yeah, he likes that too much.
It's muzzle loader season.
My final thoughts. Congratulations to Reese Johnson, the winner of the 2018 Growler Cup. So we will be awarding that this weekend. I believe he's going to be at Top Cats, or hopefully he's going to be at Top Cats, so we can give him his Growler Cup. It's not too late to get signed up for 2019's Growler Cup, and we are redesigning the format for next year so that it could be a little bit more engaging, a little bit more fun, shall we say. So make sure you get entered over at CincinnatiSoccerTalk.com/support. Figure out how you can become or get part of the Growler Cup. We're really looking forward to our new design, our revamped version of the Growler Cup in 2019.
It doesn't include anything called the Shiva, but it might be some requirement called the Jimmy, and it might end up being something like a lower back tattoo. Watch out.
Oh, boy. All right.
Watch out.
On that note, I think it's time we wrap up. My thanks to Jason Davis from SiriusXM FC's United States of Soccer for joining us this week, and for Trisha Hauser, Brad Weigel, and Bill Wolf. I'm Subs reminding you to watch your tackles, and we will see you all this weekend.